Hi, I'm Bob Ethington.
And I'm Nick Nicholas, I think.
And this is From Akron and Beyond. Well, you know, Nick, today...
It's an exciting day today, Van.
It's very exciting. It's actually also, I guess, another way of putting it would be, it's finally come to this.
Yeah, we ran out of everything else. Nobody else does.
Our special guest for this episode is me.
No!
Bob.
No!
I can hear radios clicking off all over the Tri-County area. Anyway, no, it is all about me because somehow we've never talked about my musical career for what it's worth. And
it's quite a story.
And I have a new album that's coming out that I'm very proud of. And so I thought I'd use this opportunity to, I don't know, toot my own horn. Is that the proper phrase?
Yeah.
Okay, we toot Nick's horn all the time, so now it's my turn.
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk about tooting horns anymore, though. It sounds weird.
Sounds too bad. It's stupid.
Anyway, so we have brought in to facilitate this bizarre episode our good friend, Brad Savage.
Oh, hello, guys. Hey, and this show is so great. You guys have been doing for a couple years now. Man, and just the archiving of so much history in our area.
Important stuff.
And, you know, we knew from episode number 2 when we did a whole spotlight on the Bizarros.
Right.
And then there was part A, part B, part C. Yeah. We did like 6 weeks on the Bizarros, but poor Bob hasn't had a spotlight episode yet.
No, man. He deserves it,
That's right.
Well, gee, shucks. What can I say?
Yeah.
But, no, with the current project, the Robert Ethington Quintet.
Yeah.
I thought this was also an appropriate time to kind of trace your musical history back.
Well, thank you.
Remember, Brad, there were a couple ground rules, right? No discussion of the Epstein tapes, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Well, Bob has all the secrets. I mean, I know. He's got that librarian background. So
I'm pleading the fifth.
That's right. But no, seriously, you do have quite a story to tell through many years and bands of Akron and Northeast Ohio music, Bob. And so this will be really fun to kind of hear some of your material and tell the tales behind it.
Okay, well, I hope so. I appreciate the opportunity to do it.
And I guess, you know, one thing that I was excited to learn about you, not only, you've been in Akron for quite a number of years now.
Yes.
But originally you were from another great, hard-working Midwest area.
Well, yeah. Before I lived here, I lived in a suburb of Detroit. And I kind of consider that my... sort of where I grew up. But I really grew up all over the Midwest. My father worked for Goodyear. And in those days, if you were ambitious, which he was, you basically got transferred a lot as part of your job because it was kind of like they want, for you to grow in experience and give you higher and higher responsibility. You had to kind of prove your loyalty, I guess, and move all over the place. This is before computers and cell phones and what have you. So Akron's like the 12th or 13th place I lived.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I thought the family was in Detroit and at some point moved here. So
I didn't know that either.
As Goodyear employees, your father moved around. Did they have different branches and operations in other cities?
He was always being given new accounts that he would be in charge of.
Okay.
And so, but I was born in Omaha, Nebraska.
No.
Yeah. And I lived in all these different cities in Nebraska and Iowa as he kept getting moved around. And then my earliest memories are really from Lincoln, Nebraska. Then we moved to Chicago. Then we moved to Oklahoma City. And we moved to Fort Worth, Texas. And then ultimately we moved to Livonia, Michigan.
Oh, sure. Right outside Detroit.
Right. Yes, yeah. Between 5 and 6 Mile Road for you M&M fans out there.
Yes.
I don't know why I was reminded of this when you said my father worked for Goodyear. Yeah, it was like the Rubber City Rebels song, Rubber City Rebels. My father works at Goodyear. My mother works at Stone.
It's a good line.
Yep.
Well, what was funny was that since we moved so much, we were always living in these brand new homes. They were always these subdivisions that were being built, and everyone that lived there were like these sort of well off or upper middle, not upper, but good solid middle class transients, because so many of these people were figured that they were going to be moving, and I was like never allowed to hang a poster up in my bedroom, because they always knew we would be moving in a year or 2 years, and it would put a hole in the wall that they would diminish the price of the house.
Right. Yep.
So
it's funny because Tommy Bruno is still like that about the radio station today. Like, don't put too many things in your wall. What if we get kicked out of here?
That's beautiful.
So Livonia, I was there for like those key years of like through 6th grade through the middle of my junior year, and that was really where I was really exposed to a lot of the music that's influenced me the rest of my life.
Yeah,
the bands there in Detroit, the local scene was incredible. I mean,
for
it
sure.
was, we're talking like Iggy and the Stooges, MC5. SRC, Ted Nugent, the Amboy Dukes, Bob Seger, the Bob Seger system at that time.
The good version.
Yeah. So much great rock. Alice Cooper was from there for a while.
Yep.
And I saw these bands because they would play at the high schools. Livonia was sort of your classic white flight community. There had been all the really serious riots in Detroit.
Yeah, it's during that time.
And so all these people had white people had moved out of Detroit to these suburbs. And so they were very worried during this one summer, that it was going to be
That's
trouble.
67, you think?
No, it'd be a little later than that, probably 69. Yeah. And because we're talking, the riots had happened, but this is like a couple years later, right? But they're still very nervous. And there was a lot of attempts for busing and stuff, and people were fighting that. It was a whole thing. But anyway, my point here is that they were worried about the wild youth of Livonia, and so they kept the schools open all summer, and they had all of these different kind of classes you could take on, that were fun, like art classes, music classes, stuff like that. Sports, the gym was open, so there were basketball games and what have you. And so every Friday night they would have concerts, and these are the bands that they would bring in to play at these, which is just hilarious when you think about it, because they're trying to keep all the kids on the straight and narrow, and they're bringing in the most insane radical bands on the planet.
Right. That's all happening in Detroit at that time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's that kind of classic generation gap. It's like the adults, they didn't know, they were just like, well, I've heard that this band, the Stooges, kind of reminds you of the Three Stooges, doesn't it? Well, I guess they're a lot of fun. Well, who knew that it was going to be, Iggy spreading peanut butter on his chest and stuff, but anyway, so that warped my mind. Plus the amazing radio there.
Oh, yeah, man.
Which was, the Summit is a remnant of that, and we're lucky to have that in this area, because so much radio is so programmed now, and the radio in those days in Detroit, very freeform radio. There would be a new.
Nobody knew what to call it. They called it freeform, but it was just so different than anything anybody had ever heard.
Like progressive rock era or whatever. Was it the Riff 101? The Riff.
WABX.
Oh, ABX. Yeah. And Wheels was Wheels one of them.
Yes, that was one. And there was WXYZ, and then there was CKLW.
Motor City
from Windsor.
From Windsor. Right.
Yep.
And plus there was the like college stations from Detroit, and they would really play like really radical jazz and stuff, like
through the night.
John Coltrane and Archie Shepp and Sun Ra and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm like that kid who's staying up with his little radio like late in the night on the weekends and stuff, and just absorbing all this incredible music. And so I always feel I was real fortunate for that. It was a brief period of time. I mean, those stations were in that had that kind of format or lack of format. That didn't last that long.
Yeah.
I mean, they got, bought and sold pretty quick.
We could do a whole show on the roots of progressive album rock radio like that. We should do that, because each city kind of had this renegade far left station or college station, and most of the time it was because the companies that owned them, AM was the moneymaker,
exactly,
and they didn't know what to do with the FM station, so they'd let these radical music weirdos just play whatever they want, and that influenced a generation.
I have this very clear memory of when Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones came out. They were like, man, we got the new Stones album. And they just put on like side one.
Yeah.
And they just played it straight through. And they were like, yeah, we're going to play the whole album. So there was like side one, and then side one ends, and you just hear like for like 3 or 4 minutes. And I remember even then, because I was probably only 12 or something, but even then I'm thinking like, this is very professional.
Where did they go?
Yeah, of course I knew. They're all like, smoking doobies and, oh man, it's time to flip it over.
Yeah. My wife wanted me to ask Brad a few months ago what's, about, whether he's in front of the microphone the whole time and all this, and things have changed now.
Right. Yeah. The secret, I get this question from a lot of Summit members, like, you're on the weekend, you're on every day. Well, we shouldn't admit it because we don't want to defeat the theater of the mind, the illusion, but we can pre-record if we, and you know what, that technology makes stations like ours possible today.
Sure.
It used to be every station had to have someone in there 24/7.
Right.
And, the economics of how the radio dial works, you just couldn't afford that anymore.
Course, right. Yeah.
And we need to ask Bob, actually when he started to want to be a musician instead of just like a fan like us.
Oh, yeah. So,
I'm here. You can ask me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fascinating, though, Bob. And Nick, too. This has come up on the show, how radio really was the king in influencing and in introducing new music.
Yeah.
So do you think radio's influence, led to you actually becoming a drummer and becoming a musician yourself?
It definitely led to the kind of music I wanted to play. My father was a drummer. As he was working for Goodyear and moving his way up, but he wasn't playing anymore. But when he was young, he was a drummer, and he was great. He was an excellent drummer. He'd won all these awards and things. And he had this old Slingerland drum set, and he never really pushed it on me, but I kind of gravitated to it on my own, and just immediately really enjoyed it. And then that, of course, became the bane of my parents' existence, especially my mother, because I would come home every day from school from like 6th grade through 11th grade or 12th grade or whatever. And, I wasn't playing sports or in a club or anything. Instead, I'd go down in the basement and just release all that adolescent sexual energy for like 4 hours on the drums. And I had a stereo down there with the headphones that I'd cranked up. It's amazing I'm not deaf, because I had to play it loud enough. I play records, I play along with the records. And that's how a lot of people learn to play an instrument, and drums especially, because with drums, you kind of need other people to be, to play.
Yep.
But my dad taught me some of the rudiments, and I think I was lucky in that, it's been lucky for me just in terms of enjoyment, that I really love jazz. And so those were my heroes, were the jazz drummers. So instead of trying to play rock, just straight rock, I was trying to play more with a jazzy kind of style. And so a little more technique, a little more syncopation, what have you. But yeah, it was very much. It was all intertwined. It was the radio. It was me loving playing the drums, and then just like again like the radio. So it was this kind of like thing going, all at kind of a little stew all at one time. To build up, and it was hard though because it was hard to find people to play with. Because I was very picky, even as a kid. I didn't want to play in bands if it wasn't stuff I really enjoyed or wanted to play. So
we all wish that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So when was your first band? Like, did you kind of get started playing with neighborhood kids, even back in Detroit area?
Yes, yeah. My first band was in Livonia, and it was when I was in 8th grade and 9th grade. And we were called Redneck. which unfortunately I came up with that name, which I thought was super cool at the time. And ever since, I'm like, what was I thinking?
You were 13. You have an excuse.
But we had a great set list. I mean, I wish there were tapes of that stuff because, I mean, if there is, I don't have access to them. But we played Stones and we played all these bands that I mentioned. So we played MC5 and Stooges and Ramblin' Gamblin' Man by Bob Seger and some Hendrix and all that kind of stuff. And it was two guitarists and a bass player and me. And I'm sure we were terrible. I mean, I have no illusions about this, but it was, it was fun. And we actually played out. Like we played at dances and, teen nights or whatever they'd call them. And we probably played 24 shows or something.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
There's a sub-community out there that, especially in the early 2000s, I guess, there were some like German labels that were doing 60s garage, lost classics, and like regional teen local bands that actually pressed a 45. Yeah. And then they would make a compilation. The songs were all 2 minutes. So you'd get like one CD that has 25 tracks on it by obscure bands, by, people that had some level of success. I love that era of music. Kind of like the Nuggets box set, but the next level underground.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There was unfortunately, I can't remember the name, so it's pointless for me even to bring this up, but I will anyway. There's a CD that came out a year or so ago that's exactly what you're talking about. That is all these sort of dreamy songs. Remember?
I bought that. Yeah. It's wonderful.
And it's all exactly what you're saying, like 15, 16-year-old kids, and it's like the one song that they had, And
quality is out of this world.
The songs are really good. Yep. And the kind of rickety recording of it enhances.
It makes it authentic of the era.
It reminded me of something we were talking about young kid bands. I remember when I was in my late teens, I was a recreation director of one of the parks in Akron up there in West Akron. I can't think of the name now. They have the art expo there every year. Hardesty Park,
sure.
And this young kid came, swaggering over. He goes, I've got a band, and would you let us play here sometime? I said, sure, and of course, not even thinking what the neighbors would say, But anyway, these kids come up and they set up all these amplifiers. And he said, well, we'd like to do our version of Freebird, but we're just going to start with a guitar solo. Sorry. And I was in like 10 minutes of that.
That's so cool.
The spirit of a kid wanting to do that.
Right.
That's what you had.
That's the eclectic, crazy nature of rock and roll changing the world in that late 60s and early 70s era. Exactly. And there's parts of that carry on today. Yeah. For sure.
So when I've told the story before, so I'm not going to repeat it here, but if you go back to our episode about our worst shows we ever went to. One of mine was I Played, which was Redneck, and it was at a Battle of the Bands. And it's a great story, but I'm not going to tell it again because it takes too long. So, but it's a good one.
That's why we archive this show from Akron and beyond, all the archives.
Your great-grandchildren would be going back to this.
Exactly. Yes. Right. So that was my first band, but then after that, I would play just occasionally with people. But we moved here. We moved to Akron in the middle of my senior year, junior year of high school, which was kind of difficult. I really had friends.
Sure.
This is my reunion for my high schools has been this year. So it's like Adelaide Stevenson High School in Livonia had our reunion, and then there's a Revere High School, which is where I graduated from here in Akron.
A year and a half later, sure.
And that reunion's too. But I'm not going. I didn't go because I have like a sort of a split high school experience. It's like. I don't remember. I mean, that's a year and a half of my life. I don't remember. I have a couple of people I've stayed in touch with. I just don't really remember anybody. Yeah. It didn't make that big. I'd like to go to a 9th grade reunion back in Livonia.
That'd be my favorite, too.
Yeah. And because the other thing was that in Livonia, there were 3 or 4 junior highs that all went into this huge high school. That Stevenson High School was massive. So you kind of got lost. And then I got here, and then I was lost again for a while. But moving a lot makes you you get used to it.
Sure.
Right. Nomadic, sort of.
Yeah. I'm who I am because of that. It all seems natural to me. What seems funny to me, although very natural, is that I then ended up spending the rest of my life in Akron. I never thought that would happen. Akron was my dad's dream. He wanted to end up in Akron because that's where the Goodyear corporate offices were. He was hoping he'd be like a vice president. Me, I'm like, I'm getting out of here. You know? And instead, I've found the woman that we got married, and she had family living here, and that she was tight with, and we ended up having 4 kids, and they all went to the same school system, their entire, all of them. So
something to be said for that.
It's like the opposite. I think it's cool and how it worked out. I'm glad with that.
It really is.
So anyway, when I moved here, I was lost in terms of, other than as music goes, I basically was just in the basement, pounding away, and had a couple of aborted attempts at music things that never really took off. And then I was working at a record theater that was in Fairlawn, long gone now.
Good store.
This has come up on the show before, too. Yes. Record theater has had a lot of mentions.
Yes.
Yep.
And that is where I met Tracey Thomas, who she ended up working there as well. And she's told the story many times. Basically, she wanted to be a singer and have a group, and she asked me to get involved with it. And at first, I was not into it at all because I heard the stuff she wanted to do was Linda Ronstadt kind of stuff, which is fine, but it's not my cup of tea. So I was just, like I said, I've always been a real stickler about her, pompous, if you wish, about my taste. And so
typical record store attitude.
Yeah, there you go.
Frankly,
employee.
There's no doubt about it. We've talked about this before too. I was a total elitist when it came to music, and it's funny now to think about it because I've totally changed my attitudes. But that's another story. So then Tracey said, she was like, she was getting this group together, and there was a guy named Mark Jendrusek who was a bass player, and he was really had some interesting music ideas and was talking about doing original material. So that intrigued me, and so we got together, the 3 of us, and I really liked what Mark was laying down.
Great bass player.
He is a great bass player, and so we had another guy around, Mike Johnson, who really wasn't a guitarist. He was had rudimentary guitar skills, but he had good taste, and he kind of could write some songs, and he was kind of playing along with us. And eventually we added a keyboard player who also plays guitar, and that's Paul Teagle, and brother of Johnny Teagle.
Sure.
And so that became the band The Vapors.
Ah, yes.
And then we ended up having to change our name because of the Vapors that had Turning Japanese.
This was the other Vapors,
yes.
The new wave.
Right.
They were British, right? I think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we actually got a letter, saying we, had to cease and desist with that name.
Wow, yeah.
And so we became Unit 5 is where the name, that was our name. And so But there's, I'm sure they're worth nothing, but there are out there somewhere a number of flyers and things of us as the Vapors.
The Vapors,
yeah. We were that for close to a year, I think.
Did you record under that name at all?
No.
Okay.
No. And so eventually we found that being a new wave band with a little punk sensibility, it was hard to find the right guitar player. Guys who came in to audition with us, they either had like tons of chops, which is not what we wanted, or they'd be like, "Yeah, that song you guys have is pretty good. Let me show you a couple that I have." And it was pretty clear that they were planning on taking over the band, and we already had songs, and so ultimately we just said, Mike Johnson, your guitar playing's gotten good enough, and you're writing great stuff, so you're in the band. So that was the band, and that, of course, became one of the Akron sound, key bands at that time.
Yep.
A lot partially due to Nicholas here with Clone Records, who he was a big believer in us and kind of backed us and playing out. Our first gig, he kind of was the baby bird getting pushed out of the nest. We opened for the Bizarros.
Yeah, where was that at? In Kent. So.
I think it was a Robin Hood.
It was the Robin Hood, yeah. Well, I always believed that they had some of the best songs. I mean, they were coexisting with Hammer Damage.
Yes.
And those two bands I thought were so important and commercial enough where they could carry the Akron sound to another level, be everywhere. So I sponsored 2 Clone Record nights in New York City and Danceteria. And I had like record company executives and writers and one of the trips, Hammer Damage opened, and then Unit 5 was second, and then reversed the other time. So I mean, I believed in those guys from back then.
And what year is it? About
80.
This is 1980.
Yeah.
Because Unit 5 started under the name Unit 5. That was about 78?
I was still in the Bizarros then, so it was about 79 when we played out with them, and I quit in 80.
Okay.
I think we started in 78 and played with you in the 79. Yeah. And then we were together till like 82, I think. Something like that. Yeah.
But a very important band from that era.
Well, thanks. And so we did, we made a single, and then we also had 3 songs on the Bowling Balls 2 compilation.
Yep.
On Clone Records also.
That's correct. And then the Ultimate Clone album was our Scared of the Dark album. And by that time, I was writing songs. And so a number of the songs on that album are by me. And in fact, the title track I wrote.
Scared of the Dark.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm proud of that album. It's very much of its time, but that time was kind of cool. So
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was great. But also then, so that band ends up being very successful locally, and we did have some great fun playing in New York and stuff. There's a lot of excitement. That when you're young like that, it's never quite the same again, right? I mean, it's a potential seems so huge, and plus you don't have any real worries because you're too dumb to worry.
Yeah. I love that term, salad days. Right? It's the salad days.
What was that hotel that we all stayed in at your first
Gramercy?
The Gramercy Park. There's a great documentary about that.
That's a famous hotel. Yeah. That was very fun. We all slept on the floor.
In the lobby.
That wasn't the Chelsea Hotel. It was Gramercy Park.
So by that point, then I am married, and then we started having a family in 1985, and so I'm kind of out of music for a while. I'm not really playing drums much. But I am sitting around at home. I'm still a music fanatic, and so I'm still listening to stuff, and I'm still trying to play some music. And so I made this record, or actually it was a cassette tape. That was me with a Casio keyboard.
Just like Leonard Cohen.
Kind of. Yeah, not exactly. But it was. I was very influenced. This is going to really sound pretentious, but I was very. It won't be the last time either. But I was very influenced by like Philip Glass and Terry Riley, kind of minimalist music.
Yeah.
And so I figured out this like they had the way those keyboards worked. They were kind of made like Nick was saying, to kind of play like with these rhythms and stuff that were kind of cheesy sounding. Yeah. But if you took out all of the rhythm in quote unquote sounds and just had to play with the notes, you could do stuff that sounded really cool. And so I recorded directly to a cassette in 1984 these 3 electronic pieces. Kind of buried the tape. I no one ever heard it. And then years later, a guy named Jacob Trombetta, who you'll hear more about in a minute. He's my major musical collaborator.
We had him on our show.
We've had him on the show. He's great. And but anyway, I told him about this. He got interested in it, and so I dug the tape out, and he thought it was really good. And so it's on CD, and it was. So we called that Tic Tac Tock. I don't think I even had names for these 3 pieces originally.
Yeah.
But
are they lengthy pieces or
they're each like 6 or 7 minutes.
Okay.
Except, I think the third one is longer.
And is it instrumental?
It's
music?
all the keyboard.
Yeah.
It's all electronic keyboard. Yeah. I think it's almost Kraftwerky in a way.
Yeah.
So, but it's just sort of funny because it's like that album ended up having this afterlife.
Yeah.
I never ever thought of it as an album. I just thought of it as experiments I did that kind of ended up kind of cool. So. I did that, and then a few years go by, and I'm sitting in from time to time with various people on drums and enjoying that. And Tracey Thomas is recording her first solo album, Stand Alone. And so she asked me to play drums on some of those songs. Now, so she kind of had 2 different groups working at that time. So I'm not on the whole album. I think I play on 3 of the songs on there. But I played on their song Stand Alone, which, of course, has kind of become her signature tune.
Right. And that became a huge Summit song for years. And still is, Yeah.
And I think Ryan Humbert says that's how he became a fan.
That's how he found Tracey and really
absolutely remember.
And he has ended up producing her most recent album, as a matter of fact.
Sure,
so
right. So that connection, from the Unified Days to now, it's still a close one with Tracey and I. And I also wrote a song for that album called I Can See It Now, that in her book, Little Miss Akron, she mentions specifically as being one of her favorite songs, which I thought was very nice. That was. I had no idea. So that's kind of a cool song on that album, too. Anyway, I did that, and then I started, like I said, I kind of kept dabbling in music. I started banging away on a guitar, kept playing around with keyboards, kept playing drums, and Ray Carmen, who, by the way, in case people are wondering, I'm making my livelihood through these years as a librarian for the Akron Summit County Public Library. So I wasn't just sitting around hanging out a guitar. But Ray Carmen worked for the library, still does. And, of course...
We had him on our show.
And
he today is with the Librarians with Hickeys, with Mike Crooker.
Right.
Yep.
And so Ray and I, we got together and started making music, the 2 of us, that we recorded. It was very classic Ray Carmen, home recording guy. That's him. He's a tape op kind of guy, 4-track recorder and stuff, and very good at it. And he has great pop sensibilities, and my tastes tend to be a little more weird, although he has some weird taste too. So we kind of meshed in an interesting way. And I'm proud of those records. No one ever heard them, but they were fun.
This is Kinski
Spiral.
Spiral.
That's when I learned, Brad, that there is no such thing as a name for a band that there isn't another group that already has it.
Wow.
No kidding.
Because you would think Kinski Spiral. That's got to be.
Yeah,
no
I would never have thought of that. Yeah.
Well, then there was a band that actually got kind of popular called Kinski.
Oh, yes.
So we're already in the distant shadow of that. And then since then, I've noticed that there's a band called Kinski Spiral.
A different Kinski Spiral.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So who'd have thunk it, right?
Yeah.
So the stuff I'm doing with Ray, that's all around the late 1990s, early 2000s. And somewhere around that same period of time, I started playing with Ralph Carney and then Tin Huey. I knew these guys. I'd known them going back to the Unit 5 days. And
they played the same clubs, same times.
Yes, exactly. And I was friends with them. And so how that all started was, it was kind of a two-pronged thing. First of all, this is from Akron and beyond.
Yeah.
I'm Bob Ethington talking about myself and kind of getting nauseous. And Nick Nicholas is even more nauseous listening to me.
Where are we? What's going on?
But we have Brad Savage here trying to keep us awake and from not getting sick, I guess.
Well, and it's interesting to kind of hear piece by piece your musical projects interspersed with a longtime career as a librarian and working with the Akron Summit County Public Library and a family man and 4 kids.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So kept me busy. But we did so there was a Unit 5 reunion show around, I think it was 1999.
Was that the one at the theater?
Highland Theater.
That was a great show.
At that time, the Highland Theater had music. They had shows. And they had some big shows. Like
Rubber City Rebels had a reunion there one night.
They played, but like Roger McGuinn played there. Richard Thompson played there. I mean,
I didn't know that stuff.
Yeah.
I believe. Is it true? Did Psychedelic Furs play there at some point,
I think so,
or
yes.
New Order, or Tommy Bruno has brought up stories about them coming through Highland Square area years ago.
It was very odd, but it was a short-lived thing, probably for a year and a half or something.
Okay.
The author, very popular writer David Sedaris was there.
Oh, wow.
Who now when he comes, he's like at the Civic. That's it. Yeah. So, so anyway, we did a reunion. Unit 5 did a reunion show, and that was kind of great. It was great fun. It was great to get together with those guys again. And so at that point, now I bought a new drum set for that. So I'm kind of like back into the seat of, like, all right, I'm kind of playing again. And again, it's around 2001-ish or so, maybe 2002. Ralph Carney, the great sax player, late great Ralph Carney, brother, uncle of Pat Carney of the Black Keys. But he had been in Tin Huey, and he was coming to town to play a show. Just a loose show. It was going to be Ralph Carney and Friends, and he kind of a jam thing. And he asked me if I wanted to be involved, so I said sure. So for that, I kind of ended up playing kind of like second drums
to Stuart
Austin of Tin Huey, and it was a variety of people from Tin Huey that were there and others. And we played at the Beachland.
Oh, that was that great
Beachland Tavern, and the opening band were the Black Keys.
Okay.
There's been a Record Store Day issue of that.
Right. That was like the first public Black Keys performance.
Yeah. There were like 30 or 40 of us in the tavern. That's all.
Yeah. It was funny, but it's funny because that's one of those things I can say to people. I've played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sounds good. These are things that my mother was impressed by.
Yeah,
and I can say like, the Black Keys opened for us. Sounds impressive. But so anyway, that turned into me being asked to join Tin Huey, who had reformed at that time. So that was my next fun visits to New York, because we went and played New York like 3 times, and that was with Ralph and Harvey Gold and Chris Butler, the late Mark Price, Michael Elward, and Stuart Austin. And I was, again, kind of auxiliary drummer in that band. But those guys are also super talented and really fun to play with. And then when that came to an end, mainly because of Mark Price passing away, and Ralph was living in California, Harvey Gold and Chris Butler put together a band called Half Cleveland. And so I was the actual drummer in that band. And we've recorded some stuff. That's all their material. And we played a lot. We played a lot of all the places around that you would figure, Beachland and Musica. And we played at...
we played the Civic together.
Played the Civic and played at the Akron Art Museum those Thursday nights. Yeah. And so that was a lot of fun. Great time. And while I'm doing that towards the end of the Half Cleveland era, or kind of at the same time, I meet another guy at the library, Jacob Trombetta. And I remember him, somehow I heard he was a musician, and he's younger than me. And he came up to talk to me, and I remember he said he was thinking of putting together either a Cure tribute band or a Smiths tribute band.
Oh, perfect.
Which did I think, he should do? Which I thought was a great question.
Yeah.
And of course,
my favorites anyway.
And so anyway, we kind of hit it off. And he was doing some recording and asked me to play drums on it, and I did. And that turned into a group called Comfort Clouds. And that was with him and a woman named Jennifer Court and myself. And then Scott Moses played bass later on one of our records. So we made a couple albums. That music was it's kind of hard to describe. It's like kind of like melodic bossa nova influenced rock. And in the weird world of today of the way that music works, we put these 2 albums out and, to little attention of any kind. And, but now one of the songs off one of those albums, a song called Text Messages, is kind of like, by our standards anyway, blowing up because it's ended up on some algorithm that has like mellow indie rock or something like that. And so now it's getting all these hits, and it's just like a streaming service, like a playlist of some sort. Right, like a Spotify thing.
This is Comfort Clouds Text Messages. What year was that recorded then?
That would be, that's a good question. I'm not good with dates.
You left it at 2001 a while back, so it's got to be a few years later.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Tin Huey stuff, and so I would say it was probably 2000, 10. 2010, 11, something like that. Yeah. Since working along with Jacob, we've done a bunch of different things. We've done a soundtrack for an indie film, and we've done some instrumental projects and things. And he's just an incredibly inventive musician. Again, I already cited one other of our episodes on the From Akron and Beyond podcast. I'd go back to the Jacob Trombetta one. You can hear a lot of his music on there and hear his story. Still working with him now, but with him as a producer, I made I guess what would be considered my second solo album after that Tic Tac Tock cassette thing. Yeah.
Is that Black Collar?
Black Collar.
That's I caught when I was talking to you the other day. I couldn't remember the name of that, but that was really good. I just happened to be a time traveler one day, and there was a Bob Ethington stack of CDs, and it's really good.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? Oh, you don't know dates. You're like Harvey.
No, I can tell you. It's 2016.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
2016, because for the release party of that, we played at this place called the Hive Mind, which no longer exists, but it was like kind of a performance space on Exchange that was very cool.
Yeah.
And
Man.
And so we the album Black Collar, I played all the instruments, so it was a true like. Basically,
Solo.
People just came in. We played the record. I mean,
Yeah.
I explained what I was doing with each of the songs, and then Jacob and Ralph Carney and I did like a sort of improv set, and it went great. It was really fun.
So you played songs from that album?
No, the improv thing was right. We played the entire album. Yeah,
but you did that all on your own.
Yeah.
But then you had guest musicians when we did it live.
who played not anything from the album, but just spontaneous kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Again, kind of that jazz influence and that like improvisational.
Ralph and I for years had talked about doing, there was a famous album called it's famous if you're into jazz, by John Coltrane called Interstellar Space. It's just a duet album between Train and Rashid Ali on drums. And we had talked for a long time about just doing something like that, just the two of us. And probably just play out, like not recording it. And so that was kind of the idea with this, except with Jacob on a synthesizer playing with us.
Oh, wow.
And it went great. The reason I know it's 2016 is because we were going to do it the next year, and he passed away.
Right.
So it didn't happen.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So anyway, so that was, so that I did that, and I was proud of it at the time. And then I still am. It's really funny though, I guess. I don't know how some musicians are, and I don't know if I even totally qualify as a musician, but I how about you, Nick? Like, are you always equally proud of everything you've done? Like,
No,
when
never.
I do things, like when I first made that album, I was so excited about it, and then I'm kind of like, now I'm like, well, I would have done this different, or I could have,
I think not just a good musician, but just normal human nature. I think most people feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, I still like it. I mean, I'm not ashamed of it, but it's like there's 3 or 4 songs I think are really accomplished what I wanted, and then there's other ones I'm like, I could have done that different, know. So, but then shortly after that, I start working again with Jacob Trombetta and a guy named Friday Mike Wilkinson, a musician local who plays in a number of different bands. He was in Half Cleveland earlier. And he plays in Dave Rich's band now.
Yeah,
the
he's one of the enablers with Dave Rich.
Right,
yep.
Exactly.
We had him on the show.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that hasn't been on the show?
That's why we're doing me, Nick.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. There's nobody left.
So we have a band called Lazear, which the name comes from, I believe, one of Jacob's uncles. And so these are more pop-ish songs. We've kind of moved into sort of a country-ish direction with some later stuff. Of course, now we've got the shootouts in town. So
doing all this country
not
thing.
Not sure how that's going to work, but
this town ain't big enough for the both of us.
Still a bit of animosity building up here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Ryan, where are you?
They're very good, so I'm not. That's all I'll say about that. But no, Lazear has a lot of really good songs, and one of them you guys play.
Yeah,
that's right.
Secret.
Your Secrets. Yep.
And that's a particularly good one, I think. So maybe we can give that a spin.
We'll give that a spin.
Yeah. And then, simultaneous with Lazear, is the other great band that I'm in currently, which is more a recording project than anything else, but will probably end up playing live at some point. That's Golems of the Red Planet. And this is with the aforementioned Harvey Gold.
Yep. And
Matt Reese, who plays cello, and Mark Allender, who plays bass. And it was Mark's idea, which is basically there's this musician composer named John Zorn.
Cult following for years.
Right.
Yeah,
extremely prolific.
And some of his records are quite valuable, like some of his rarities and things. Yeah.
And the cover art's always great and stuff.
Yep.
But he ended up, he's one of his myriad projects is putting together this thing called the Masada Project, which is basically collecting all these melodies and kind of Hebraic melodies. And then it's like he kind of puts them out there, and it's like you can do whatever you want with them. So you could turn them into a string quartet, or you could use it as a jazz group. Any kind of approach you want to take, you take it and do it.
He has like a website, and you could go on and download this stuff. Is that what he's doing?
Well, yes, and you get the melodies from there. Yeah.
And where is he? Where is John Zorn? Is he in New York?
He's in New York.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a famous badass. There's a famous story about Zorn playing a gig that Lou Reed went to with Václav Havel, who was the president of Czechoslovakia.
The one that Lou Reed insulted like hell.
Well, but he liked him, though.
But he still treated him like crap.
Right, well, that was Lou for him.
That was Lou's character, right?
But they go to this John Zorn show, and Lou and Havel are like gabbing away, and Zorn just like stops playing and tells him, like, shut up.
Stops the show.
Yeah. Zorn is like the one guy who's, like could put up with stand up with Lou, I think, in terms of, But anyway, so he's very picky. So it's cool that we're doing this. And Mark Allender's idea for this is to do these songs in a sort of surf rock approach. And when I first heard this, I thought, maybe. I'm not a big surf rock guy. I love any given surf rock song.
For one or two.
But after like 2, 3, I get tired of it.
Yeah.
But the arrangements that we've come up with, I think, are pretty cool. And having cello on it, I think, adds a texture to it that is very interesting. And people like our songs.
We've played quite a few of them here on the Summit as well.
Yes.
And people are always wowed to figure out, first, that it's a local band. And then, second, if they're aware of John Zorn, they're like, no kidding. Because he's a cult underground figure for sure.
Right.
Is he mostly regarded as jazz? Is he kind of a classical guy? He kind of has done
avant-garde jazz.
Like avant-garde jazz. Yeah. I remember that I was a big Faith No More fan in high school, and Mike Patton, the front man of Faith No More, was a big John Zorn fan, and the name would come up in interviews I would read in, Rip magazine and Circus magazine and all these 90s hard rock magazines. So that's where, in fact, I think they collaborated on a side project at one point. Wow. So that's where I learned of John Zorn was from the 90s alt-rock era.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
But isn't that how music geeks always learn about stuff?
Oh, totally. When the musician they love starts talking
it's very similar for me with music, and it's also similar that way with writers, with books. If I really love a novel, and then I read an interview with the author, and he's talking about some other writer that influenced him or her, I'm like, I got to check that out. I got to check that book out. Yeah. And so,
Well, and as far as Golems of the Red Planet, John Zorn himself is very aware of the project, right?
Yeah. He's complimented us a number of times on our arrangements.
Yeah.
So, so it's a cool thing to be involved in. I very much enjoy it. And it's good, very good challenge for my drumming, because drumming is often tricky, because it's tricky time signatures.
Yep.
But it's fun. It's good stuff. Which brings us
to
my current project, which I'm very excited about. And I thank you guys for putting up with me for the last 45 minutes or whatever to finally get to what I want to talk about, which is...
No, wait, ran out of time.
And we'll be back next week.
with another guest.
Another guest.
Anyone but him.
That's right.
It's his way of tricking us into a two-parter.
That's right. No, but seriously, so tell us about the Robert Ethington Quintet.
Okay, well, this has been something I've wanted to do for years. Going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, my love of jazz, I've always wanted to do an approach to a jazz album like what I remember how I mentioned Pomposity was going to return. Here it comes.
It's here.
Yeah, it is.
In droves.
Yeah. Pretentious light bulb just went off. I always wanted to do an album like how Miles Davis approached Kind of Blue, or Charles Mingus approached a lot of his albums, which was basically going in with skeletal arrangements and letting the musicians take it from there. And the key to this, which is very important, is you have to have the right musicians and you have to listen to each other, because otherwise it's just going to be a bunch of people blowing over one another, and it's going to be tiresome and noisy and stupid. Whereas if it's done right, it can be, I think, really great. And I'm really proud of this album. So it's a great album. It's called Lost Languages. And it's credited to the Robert Ethington Quintet, which is a little pretentious, but I couldn't think of another name. And then we've talked about how if you try to come up with any name, someone else is going to have it.
It's already been done.
I'm like, well, it's not going to be another Robert Ethington Quintet. There might be a quartet, a trio.
I love that Robert Ethington trio record from '74, though. So,
Yeah.
There used to be a Nick Nicholas Ford in Florida.
Oh, really?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
Yeah. But the name Lost Languages is on purpose, because it is the idea of what is a jazz album now? What is jazz?
Sure.
I think that jazz is, it's become a problematic thing, because it's, for one thing, it's definitely a music from a certain demographic of people, but it became a wider thing where everyone can play it. But then it also became something that's kind of been institutionalized in colleges and in university programs, and that stuff's all fine, but they're basically playing note for note renditions of things that have already been done, which is not what jazz is.
Nope.
Jazz is music that comes out of the moment and can't be repeated. And so that's the whole approach of this album. This was all recorded in one afternoon. There's some editing involved, but that was basically for like if there were a couple sections that would be like, this is going on a little too long or something, we kind of edit it. But basically it's all live, as the way that we actually played it that day. And
are these your musicians, are they people you've played with before?
Yeah, but we never played together at once.
Really?
And so the group, and also it's an interesting makeup of instrumentation, I think. So taking us back, though, for a second, this is how far back this project in my head goes, is that originally Ralph Carney would have been the sax player.
Sure.
But, and then, of course, he passes away, and then there's COVID and there's all these things that delayed being able to finally do it. So finally I was able to get these guys together, starting with Terry Hind from the Numbers Band, who plays alto and soprano sax, and he's great, and really fit in exactly how what I was hoping for. And then Steve Clements, who plays Rhodes piano and some synthesizer, Gabe Schrey, who plays bass, and the aforementioned now several times Jacob Trombetta, who plays pedal steel guitar, which is a unusual instrument in
for a jazz record.
Context.
But his effects on there are just out of this world.
Yeah, Jacob uses a lot of loops and things, and so it really gives it kind of an almost orchestral sound.
It's not what you'd think of when you hear treble,
Yeah, like if you're thinking like a like a
do that again, Nick. That was great. Yeah.
Like if you're thinking like a Buck Owens album, so it sounds like that. Yeah. Right. And then I play drums and I play some synthesizer as well. And so there's 4 songs on it. each song is pretty different. I think it all works as an album.
It's a great album.
Well, thank you, and I'm just really happy about it. Really thrilled.
I want to compliment Jake on the production of that too. It sounds like it could have been like a CBS recording from the '90s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you record that? Here in Akron?
Jacob's house.
At Jacob's house.
Yeah, in
Wow.
Cuyahoga Falls.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I was thrilled to be able to get these guys together to play this record for me. And that was a whole dramatic thing because we finally all get there and there was a power outage.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, I can't believe it. God doesn't want this record to exist. But thankfully, the power came back on in an hour or so, and it all was okay. But much to my delight, they all kind of immediately were like, hey, if you ever want to play this out, we'll do it. Mm-hmm. And so we are going to play a show on Friday, September 5th at Lockview downtown.
Oh, perfect.
On the roof.
On the roof. It's going to be that upper patio. And so I'm praying for decent weather.
Yes.
And if the weather's good, it should be a beautiful night. And a ambient jazz group called Brutal Bedtime, who are very cool from around this area, are going to open for us. Yeah.
They're local.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, you went old school on this a bit. Besides the typical CD and streaming, you have vinyl.
I figured this was kind of like my ultimate dream. Now, of course, once you achieve that, then you want to do another one. Right?
Yeah, right.
But I mean, with this, I was like, it's not going to be cheap, but yes.
Let's do it.
So it's available on vinyl and CD.
How many total pieces on the record?
4.
4, okay.
Yeah. But it's a full-length album.
And now, when it officially goes on sale, are you
same day, September 5th?
Are you going to be able? Can people purchase it streaming-wise?
Yes,
too?
It'll be available on all the streaming services.
Do you have a Bob Ethington website, or how are they going to get it?
As a matter of, there is a robertethington.com.
Ah, yes.
Very nice. And it is sort of in an embryonic form, but it's going to completely kick in on that same date. September 5th is the big day.
Cool.
And we usually don't do these shows we try to make them, like
non-date sensitive.
Yeah, but you're an insider here. You can do anything you want.
That's right.
That's right.
So that's why I'm pushing this show. Come please to see us and to hear it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Well, we'll play Baked Alaskan and maybe one more too here, and congrats on all of this musical history. This is your life, Bob Ethington, leading up to the Robert Ethington Quintet.
There's a hearse like pulling out outside.
Good stuff, my friend.
Very good.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to do that. It was kind of fun actually to go back and think about this stuff because I usually don't. So
I still think Livonia is a sissy name.
Livonia. Yep.
Well, try saying that.
Well, excellent. Yeah, Robert Ethington Quintet, Lost Languages is the record, and we have learned all of your terrific music history, and thank you for sharing all of that, and congrats on this record.
Well, thank you, guys, and this has been From Akron and Beyond with Nick Nicholas. I'm Bob Ethington, and thank you, Brad Savage, for
Thanks, Brad.
making this all happen.
See you guys soon. See you.
Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.